we in a previous conversation we chatted about how there's kind of going to be a land rush, especially
Yep.
when it comes to these cloud solutions.
Mm-hmm.
What do businesses have to keep in mind right now in talking to cloud solution providers, getting in front of this? Because with that land rush, there are a limited number of resources that have the expertise to get people to the cloud.
Yeah.
They need to get in front of these experts now
I
before
agree.
those resources start to get bottlenecked.
I agree. It's interesting. Like you said in a previous conversation, we talked about land rush, the gold rush. That I used to think that the gold rush had happened 3 years ago, and now watching it and watching companies faced with the the inability to scale to 100% work remote or 80% work remote, and just fight with that inability over and over and over again. It's been challenging. So to me, the number one question that I think that that when you talk to vendor, I'm gonna talk just use the blanket term vendors because I'm gonna loop myself in that, and I'm gonna also loop the big cloud providers in that. I'm gonna loop software companies in that. Um, uh, when you're talking to vendors, they're always going to tell you the cheapest way possible to do things. It's not going to necessarily be the right way.
Mm-hmm.
When I sit down and I talk with customers about how am I going to do things way one or way two or way 13, you always have to be aware of sometimes those applications are just not going to run in a platform as a service footprint. Sometimes those applications are just not going to run on a database as a service platform. Sometimes those applications are going to just be horrible in that configuration, or the vendor's not going to scale to it. So when you talk with, heck, even our own sales staff, they're going to tell you, well, if you take it this way and this way and this way, it'll be $12 a month. And those are absolutely true if the conditions are right, if the conditions are set, and and there's variables that are controlled, there's conditions that are set, there's attributes that are known, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The challenge that we run into with those is we don't know them all, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm finding one out again. I'm finding one out about my house. I'm finding out that I need to move the Wi-Fi about 10 feet that way because there's no coverage for about the last 10 feet of my house that way. And it might be because it's on a wall. It might be because any number of reasons. But something as simple as that never really factored into the conversation 3 months or 6 months or 3 years ago when we've been living here for 6 years. Um, it's never really factored into the conversation. But now here we are um, trying to figure out, okay, what's the new normal? What's the new thing? That same context is going to be true when you start to talk to vendors. Those vendors are going to say, oh, we'll just put everything on PaaS and call it good. Well, no, that application might not work on PaaS. Okay, well, and we'll put it on manage this. Okay, well, manage this isn't going to work either because the vendor requires A. Okay, well, then I guess we'll have to do IaaS. If I were to say nothing else, I would say find when you talk with your vendors, find out what it's going to cost to run your data center in a cloud provider,
Mm-hmm.
because that's going to be your highest level of cost. Don't let them tell you it's going to say, oh, you're going to save this much, you're going to save 70 or 80%. It's true, but it takes work. It takes a lot of work. It takes a level of commitment, and right now that level of commitment's not there. Now, you can be faced with, and this is the fun conversation, you can be faced with the other side of it that says you're not going to have the capacity to scale.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have to have that ability that says I need to convert the inability to scale into the new normal, which is now I can scale, but here's the cost. IT people are notorious for not understanding what a monthly cost of an IT organization is. As a CTO, I've never really, I mean, I do now, but as a CTO, I never really looked at what does it cost to run a department staff and technology and computers on a monthly basis. The reality is that you have to know what that monthly cost is. You might pay for it all at once. You might pay capital expenditure and depreciate that over time, but that depreciation rate is your cost. That you have to know what your cost per month is. And in IT, people will say, I don't need to worry about things like real estate tax and heating and cooling and fire safety, and they all factor into the cost of IT. The other side of this is, if you know what your cost of IT is, understand that it's all of IT. It's not just how much do I spend in capital costs every 4 years. Start to understand what that looks like. The other thing I'm going to ask is, this is going to be directed at CFOs, comptrollers, accountants, things like that. Don't look at EBITDA. Don't think that EBITDA is where the number needs to be, because the realistic answer is that monthly expenses allow me to shut things off. EBITDA is a great thing for capital-driven organizations where you have servers that depreciate over time, or they're great. It's great measurement for that. But in a service-driven economy, again, delivering a pizza, I want this much inventory. I don't want to. And if I'm the delivery company that's not the pizza company, I want even less inventory. I don't want to pay staff and delivery people to just sit there and do anything. I want to pay them per delivery order. That is a much more service-driven economy. That doesn't require an EBITDA that's this high. It requires, what really starts to matter is, you almost want to look at what's my adjusted income, but subtract EBITDA out of it. I mean, you don't care about your EBITDA, because I'm looking for the bottom line number, which is bottom line revenue or bottom line margin, and maybe your internal rate of return. I typically look at, I want to know what the margin number is, because that's where my profit comes from. I don't really get to have, I run a services organization. There's no capital here. And the capital is people, but I have to pay them a monthly salary. So in those scenarios, it's like, okay, here you go. So that would be, again, just to kind of summarize: 1, understand how much it costs to run your IT organization in full. 2, never trust the vendor, because they're going to tell you the cheapest method possible. And 3, start to look at the way you account for your revenue. Those 3 things are going to set you up, if you're a company, to be ready to transform that to the cloud. Don't think of things now as a capital purchase. I've got $100,000 to buy these servers, or $1 million to buy these servers. Instead, look at it and say, I have $8,000 a month to run these servers, because that's really the number that matters.
Right.
So those are, to me, the big 3 when I start to talk about it.
Thank you for watching Stratum's Cloud Interrupted. If you like what you see, please subscribe, like, and share this video.